Yeah. Thanks, Rebecca. I'd like to welcome everyone to this virtual public hearing for the Friendship Road project in McCracken County. We're going to kick off here in just a second. I've got with me Rebecca Thompson and Tom Klaus from QK4 Engineering. They're our consultant partners on this project. I'm with the Transportation Cabinet, and I'm the Highway Department's project manager for the project, and Tom and Rebecca are assisting us with the project. So I'm going to turn it over to start off with Rebecca, who's going to go through a few of the online meeting etiquettes and how this meeting is going to be run. And then I'll take over from her, and Tom and I will go through more of the project details.
All right, so I'm sure everybody's familiar with Zoom by now, but just in case, we kind of wanted to review some of that background information. We're going to step through an update on the project status, mostly as us presenting to you all, and then we'll open it up for some comments and questions once Chris and Tom talk through the technical content. Just a heads up, this is being recorded, so just be aware. And then all the information that we're going to look at today is available on the project website. And you can see the link on the screen now, or it's also in the chat box if you would like to take a look. So for anyone who's not familiar, since you are on mute, we do ask that you use the raise your hand feature if you want to say something so that we can work on unmuting you on our end. There should be a button that says reactions at the bottom of your screen on a PC, or at the top of the screen if you're on a tablet or phone. If you don't see that button, it might be hidden under the little reaction smiley face, or even 3 dots that say more. There's also the chat panel feature, which kind of looks like a little speech bubble that's hidden either at the bottom or the top of your screen. And if you don't see something you think you should see, always start with checking that 3 dots that say more. So with that, we'll jump over to the story map and get moving on the technical content. Feel free to, if you have questions as we're working through this, you're always welcome to type them in that chat panel, but we'll open it up to actual verbal comments and questions once we make it through the technical content. It's all you, Chris.
Thanks, Rebecca. So this project, so the Friendship Road project was something that was conceived and initially designed 4 or 5 years ago. We've run through several preliminary design concepts, and most of you, or a lot of you, may have attended a public meeting that we had at Lone Oak Elementary School, I believe, in the summer of 2019, where we showed some of those preliminary concepts. Since we've had that meeting, we've made quite a bit of progress on the project. We've actually have the project divided into 4 sections. On the initial section between US 45 and US 62, we're purchasing right of way on that section right now. I recognized some of the names in this meeting as people that were already have made offers to purchase their property and are negotiating with. Sections 2 and 3 run from 62 to Friendship, or to Olivet Church Road, and then section 4 runs on a new alignment from Olivet Church Road to US 60. And Tom's going to get into some more details of specifics of what that looks like a little bit later on in this meeting. But I just want to let everybody know that if you were at that meeting in 2019, a lot of what you see here is going to be very similar to what you saw back then, except for a few key details, and Tom's going to go over those few details in a second. For those of you who weren't here 2 years ago and aren't as familiar with the project, the project area is shown here on the screen, and it goes all the way from US 45 to US 60 along the Friendship Road corridor. As Rebecca, you can see by the area in the red box on the screen. Can you scroll down a little, Rebecca, to the next? So the purpose of the project is to improve safety and traffic operations along Kentucky 1286 between US 45 and 60. For those of you who drive the route on a frequent basis or live on the route, you know that there are a lot of accidents on the route, that there's substandard geometrics. There are a lot of places where the road is too narrow, the curves are too sharp. The route as a connector between 45 and the mall area in Paducah has way more traffic than it was ever designed for. And there's a lot of continuing commercial development along the route that it's not really designed for. So a few of the issues that we've encountered is, to why this project is important and why we're doing this project. This map shows a 4-year accident history for the whole corridor. You can see there were 185 crashes in that 4-year span, including 1 fatality and 67 injuries. And there are a few locations, such as the curve on 45 near Lone Oak Elementary, that have a high concentration of those crashes. And you see on the map here, there's a few other clusters of accidents, but there are accidents throughout the corridor. It's not just focused on these specific 4 areas. These have elevated areas of crashes, but the accident history along the entire corridor is something that leads us to do improvements along the entire corridor rather than just focusing on these 4 spots. And then this next slide highlights some of the substandard geometrics that I talked about. Throughout the entire project, the lane widths are too narrow, especially for the volumes that we have and any trucks that might be on the route. And then this shows the areas where we have deficient horizontal curves. Said if you drive this every day, you're very familiar with those curves look like. And this project will address all of those deficient areas. And then the historic traffic growth patterns. As you can see, there's sections, especially between 45 and 62, that have 10,000 approaching 12,000 vehicles a day. Other sections have a lot less than that, but all of these are volumes that are much higher than this road was initially designed for, and it definitely warrants improvement in order to continue to carry this volume of traffic and any additional volumes of traffic that we expect to see on it. Okay, some of the alternatives that we have looked at back in 2014, a planning study that was done on this corridor that examined several of the areas that I just mentioned, and also looked at some corridor level widening options. That study recommended widening to 3 lanes from 45 to 62, addressing the sharp curve at Seneca, improving the Holt Road intersection, potentially adding turn lanes for Lone Oak Elementary, widening to 3 lanes between 62 and 998, and then also widening 998. So we advanced all of those ideas from the planning study into preliminary design. Some of those concepts have been carried forward, others have been dropped. We'll get into the details of that a little bit more here in a few seconds. And in preliminary design, we looked at a range of alternatives. We looked at 2-lane, 3-lane, 5-lane sections. We looked at where the existing highway could be widened versus where we could build the road on a new alignment. We looked at using what we call a rural template that has shoulders versus an urban template that has curb and gutter, and that would allow us to have potentially a sidewalk or a multi-use path. We looked at lots of different combinations of whether we should widen to the left, widen to the right, widen equally about the center. And with the amount of homes and businesses along the route, we really have taken a lot of time to try to thread the needle, squeeze this alignment through in order to try to reduce the impacts as much as possible to the people that live along the route. So all of those impacts to property owners' costs, environment, traffic, et cetera, are all put together and put into the alignment that you're going to see. One thing you'll notice is that winding Kentucky 998 did not advance from the planning study. We've actually designed on here a more direct connection to US 60 to serve the traffic flow to the west. If you remember from the public meeting 2 years ago, we had two different alternates that we proposed for that connection to US 60, and Tom's going to be showing us what we ultimately, we've selected an alternate for that, and we're going to be showing that here this evening. We also have some intersection concepts that are new to the project that we're going to be presenting this evening. So with that being said, Tom, I think this is where I turn it over to you, right?
Yes, that'll work.
I'm going to turn it over to Tom to go through some of the details of the design.
So the map that you're seeing right now is kind of the overview of sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. And as Chris noted, this project was subdivided into 4 particular sections to allow them to advance in pieces as funding became available. So right now, section 1, dollars are there to purchase right of way and move utilities. So that, several of you on this call are already a part of that right of way process. So you're being approached and negotiated with right now by KYTC to purchase the right of way for section 1. Sections 2 and 3 are future design phases and future right of way and utility relocation phases. Right now, funding is not set up to advance project in those 2 areas. Section 4, we anticipate being able to secure right of way to begin the right of way acquisition process in 2022, so sometime next year, with potentially construction taking place as soon as the following year. One thing that you'll know, for those of you who are at the in-person meeting in 2019, as Chris pointed out, what we showed you then, what we showed you now, are showing tonight, they're very similar, but there are a few differences. One of the things that came out of our meeting and through part of the discussion with KYTC was concerned the typical section. Friendship Road has got it's got components that felt like rural areas and some that felt more urban. But honestly, even in the short period of time since 2019, there's been further development along Friendship, things that have that there's been a lot of expansion. So the cabinet decided ultimately to advance a more urban typical section. So instead of providing wider lanes and wider shoulders, one that would kind of encourage higher speeds, they've decided to advance a more urban typical section, one where the lanes aren't quite as wide, and provide a third middle lane, a 13-foot wide two-way left turn lane throughout the corridor, so that those vehicles that are wanting to make left turns can do so without imposing stopping traffic that's advancing. So that's one of the changes that's made. So we're doing an urban corridor, urban typical section throughout the corridor, 3 lanes wide. And there was also a decision made by the cabinet to advance a multi-use path throughout the corridor. So whereas in 2019, we were showing a 2-lane highway in sections that's been converted to 3, but we're also showing a multi-use path in section 1 only. Now that multi-use path will be advanced throughout the entire corridor and terminate ultimately at US 60 on the northern end. So let me try to get to my Google Earth, which is now hidden by Zoom. So Rebecca, you can scroll down to your map there.
Surely.
Let's see, now I think I can get to it. Yes, I can. All right, so let me share my screen. Are you all seeing?
We can see you.
All right, good deal. Progress. So section 1, as Chris mentioned, starts at US 45 and it ends at US 62. When we were going through the traffic iterations of how to accommodate this new intersection, we found out quickly that we were going to have to carry these improvements through the intersection so that we do have a left turn lane dedicated here, as well as a right and through turn. So that means that whereas the public meeting we showed previously, we weren't showing impacts on this side of US 45, and now we have to. So, but you folks have probably already been approached by KYTC. With this alignment is now, we are relocating primarily the Friendship Road was at this intersection and went down here and made this sharp 90-degree curve at Seneca Lane. So with this project, Friendship Road now makes a much more gentle curve and ties in to Lakeview Drive at the existing Lakeview Drive location. So there'll be widening that takes place from here and throughout the Friendship Road corridor. So once we get back to basically at Seneca, we're widening along existing through this area and tying back into previously improved section here where it's already widened out to 3 lanes. So that is the entirety of section 1. So as I mentioned before, sections 2 and 3, what we're showing, we're going to show, so these light blue cyan lines, these are what our proposed right-of-way takings will be. Now, section 1, it's tied down. This is what we're taking. On sections 2 and 3, what we're showing is our best estimate as of today. Once the project advances to final design, we will be able to more accurately and to tie down these locations. But so take some of this with a grain of salt, that what you're seeing is our best estimate given where we are today. So section 2 basically follows along the existing alignment. The multi-use path comes down through here as well. Now, right here at the Buckner curve, we're straightening out Buckner curve. So it'll be a much more gentle curvature through this area. That's the one of the off alignment components with the Friendship Road improvements. And this improvement will work its way up and terminate where back in about 2005 or so, 2005, 2006, there was a project that reconstructed, that eliminated all this curvature that existed on Friendship in this area. So this project will tie to that pre-existing bridge condition. And we will transition that bridge project to be able to accommodate the multi-use path and the lane use through here. So we'll be able to utilize that existing structure. And section 3 starts here at Perkins Creek Bridge and advances north along existing Friendship. And as you can see, as you all know that you live there, there's a lot of development that's taking place throughout this area, and there's more proposed development ongoing. So that's one of the things that we're, Chris is trying to work with some of these developments right now in the planning stage to try to be able to accommodate both of their needs and the KYTC's needs as well. So again, what you're seeing right here is preliminary. It's not tied to stone, but it is what we're showing at this time. And we are making a slight adjustment in alignment right here, just on the northwest side of New Hope Road, to straighten this out to make a better alignment as you approach this intersection of New Hope. And again, the multi-use path continues through here. Now, where you're going to see the most differences between now and what we showed at the previous public meeting is in section 4. So section 4, previously we showed a couple alternatives, one that tied down over here, one that came through and tied down basically where this existing connection is to old US 60. And it was a pretty overwhelming majority of folks said that they prefer the alternative that made this tie to US 60. So as we advance in the final design and we're working through alternatives, we ended up having to shift from this location. We had to push this out another couple hundred feet. It made for a more smooth transition here. And the other thing that is happening is that once the decision was made to advance the multi-use path, then you have to safely accommodate those folks when they get to the intersections. And after working with KYTC and our folks, it was determined that the traffic volumes at the existing 998 intersection with Friendship Road did not warrant a traffic signal. So because of that, then we started asking, well, what can we do to safely accommodate vehicles and pedestrians and bikes, the mixture of traffic? And after talking around and around about options, we landed on roundabouts because they were able to facilitate current year and design year traffic to a level of service that honestly is going to be around a level of service A or B. I mean, it accommodates the vehicles very well as it enables you to accommodate pedestrian traffic through these refuge islands that you provide within the traffic or outside the traffic circles. So we've incorporated a roundabout at this intersection with 998. And as we circle around here, we also are incorporating a roundabout at the intersection with old US 60. So with this development, the old connection to US 60 goes away, that pavement gets removed, and it requires us, we will end up taking this out, the main entrance to Tractor Supply, and relocating it to this point. So that we have, and KYTC's thought at this point is that there very likely will be a traffic signal on US 60 at this intersection. With that, we will incorporate left turn lane, left turn storage on US 60 for Tractor Supply, as well as for Friendship Road. And I know this was a very rapid run through of the developments and the things that we're doing on the corridor, but in the link to your story map, you are able at your own leisure to take your time and go through, and you can investigate, you can dig in and go to this interactive map and look for yourselves and take your time and go through. And as we, Rebecca, I'm gonna stop sharing this briefly. If you can put up the comment sheet at the bottom of the story map. So at the bottom of the story map, we have a couple ways for your thoughts and opinions to be heard. One is to raise your hand and we'll talk through whatever items that you have and want to talk through tonight. And the other is to officially put your comment in that box and hit submit. And with those, we're able to get back with you. Just like that. So, Chris, I know that was a really kind of rapid run through of the 4 sections, but is there anything else that you want to add, or do you?
I just wanted to point out that the colors on this interactive story map are a little bit different than what Tom saw in his KMZ, but it's the same basic concept, and you can click in and zoom around and all that good stuff at your leisure.
And I will say the aerial imagery on the story map is more up to date than the one that's in Google Earth. So obviously it shows the Menards, whereas Google Earth doesn't show Menards.
Yeah, Tom, I was just going to add that if anyone has any issues, difficulties accessing this information online, please reach out to us through either the contact info on the invitation you got or through this submittal box. I'm located here locally in Paducah at our office in Reedland, so I'm definitely available to meet with people individually and pull this up on a laptop or print it off or some other format if you're having issues viewing it online. Obviously, we do have COVID safety health protocols that we're following here in state government offices that kind of precluded us from doing this as a large group gathering. But if there are people having issues, then please reach out to us and we can try and handle that on a one-on-one basis. Um,
So we've got one comment typed into the chat box, and then I'm going to ask Ashley to unmute. The comment says, will sidewalks be included in the design to make our communities more walkable, connecting neighborhoods to neighborhoods and neighborhoods to businesses?
so the answer to that is yes. This entire length of project, we actually looked at two different options. One was to have a sidewalk on each side of the road. With a 5-foot sidewalk on each side of the road, that technically can accommodate bicyclists. And so to accommodate bicyclists, we would have to look at putting bike lanes in the pavement. So where we ended up landing was on one side of the road, there will be an 8-foot wide pedestrian path. And that 8-foot wide pedestrian path will accommodate pedestrians, wheelchairs, bicyclists, anyone that wants to use it. And that will run the entire length of the project from US 45 to US 60 at the places where it crosses a signalized intersection like US 62 or Holt Road. There will be a pedestrian accommodations to cross, to press the button and get the walk and go across the sidewalk. And then at the roundabouts, and Tom can zoom back in on that. The roundabouts do have a path to negotiate for the pedestrians and bikes to negotiate through the roundabout. You kind of have to cross each leg at a time. It's a little cumbersome, but it's kind of the standard way that we navigate pedestrians through a roundabout.
All right, Ashley/Sam, I'm going to ask you to unmute if you want to ask a question.
Sure. In section 1, do you have anything in plans in regards to sound reduction, specifically in the neighborhood near Lone Oak Elementary, across from the cemetery, for that residential area?
So you are in the area off of Kimberly and Cannon?
Correct.
No, we do not. Actually, depending on where you are in that subdivision, there's going to be a greatly reduced amount of traffic on the leg of Friendship Road that intersects with Kimberly and Cannon, and the traffic will be taken, on the. Tom, you have it up there on the screen. Yeah, so there is some of the area along the creek where the trees are at, between that subdivision and the road will be left in place. So that will still act as a natural noise barrier.
Well, we're here now, and it's already pretty loud. So if we're looking at increasing flow, that's going to be even worse.
Okay, so are you on where are you located?
We're right across from the cemetery. On the other,
on Kimberly?
no, off of Lantern.
Oh, okay, that the other cemetery over that. Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Brooks Memorial Park.
Yes.
So it's already pretty loud and we're pretty close. So who would we need to speak to about getting something like that implemented?
We can have an offline conversation about that to see if there's anything that would be potential for us to do. If you can leave us, or Rebecca, do we have their contact info from where they registered?
I've probably got an email address, but if you want to type your phone number into that direct message to Chris or myself, then we can follow up afterwards.
Sure, will do. Thank you.
We've got a couple more questions in the chat. The first says, can you explain a little more about the concept of a roundabout?
Sure. Tom, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so Rebecca, you here to just go over the roundabout.
You can zoom into one of them and I don't know if you might want to switch to the Google Earth one where you can zoom even closer.
That's all you, Tom.
Yeah, you moved my button. All right, share.
If you want, you just zoom in on that one.
So the roundabout, our traffic circle is, it's basically vehicles within the roundabout have the right of way. Those approaching the roundabout yield to the vehicles in the roundabout. So if you're approaching here and there is nothing coming through this leg, you have the ability to either make this right turn or enter into the roundabout and circulate around to where it is you want to exit. If you wanted to, you could drive in circles and around and around and around. So once you're in the roundabout, you have the ability, you have the right of way. So it works the same for every lane. So if I'm approaching from this direction, there'll be a yield condition here. If the vehicle's coming, I yield. If nothing is coming, then I enter the roundabout and go around to whichever leg I'm trying to exit. So with pedestrians, then the thing with the pedestrians is that they would come to this spot and there's going to be a refuge for pedestrians within the not the roundabout proper, but the legs approaching. So as they come here, the only traffic they have to look for is what's coming this way. They'll enter here and then they can look and see what's coming this way and they cross. So you have an island refuge. So you're only having to cross one direction of traffic at a time. Does that help? Does that make sense?
I'm going to move on to the next comment while we're waiting for anybody to respond about roundabouts. It says, what is the likelihood that the queue at US 60 will back up into the traffic circle as more development fills in around Menards? Seems like the short queue distance, assuming the rest of that area fills in short order following these improvements.
Well, that is actually a very good question, because that was one of the concerns that we had when we first looked at the roundabout concept. So we went back out in the field. We recounted all the traffic that is making those movements now. We've done some, we've brought in some traffic engineering kind of experts that just do traffic engineering, traffic modeling work. And they have, there's computer programs out there that take all this data. We use it to project, try to predict what the traffic's going to be like in the future, and then model what the traffic's going to do now, where the backup's going to be, how long are the backups are going to be. And based on all of that analysis, we believe that this is going to work. Now, I can't tell you that, that there are going to be times, I can't tell you that there are never going to be times where that backup may occur, but all of our traffic engineering modeling that we've done shows that we believe that it's going to work the majority of the time. Is that a fair way of assessing that, Tom?
It is. And if you'll notice on this roundabout, so picture in your head what's going on here, as compared to, if you notice these right turn slips, as compared to the roundabout here, that those maneuvers aren't accounted for. That's because this roundabout functions just fine the way it is. Whereas the traffic analysis was showing that without these additional movement accommodations, that exact point you're making, they were potentially issues with their roundabout at this location. So once these slips were incorporated, these right turn lanes. So basically, if you're coming north on Friendship and you want to turn right into Menards, you don't really enter the roundabout here. There's a little slip ramp that you're on that you're able to come on out and get into, exit this way. The same way with the short distance right here that you referenced, that was honestly, it was a concern for all of us. And it took a long time for us all to do enough analysis and get enough confidence in what was being shown that we felt like this still worked even in the 2040 design year. But so vehicles that are turning here now, so this right turn movement, it isn't predicated upon vehicles entering this circle. So you're able to slip this around and make this right turn. So if you're coming in and wanting to go the back door to the school, you can facilitate that movement this way, as opposed to having to physically enter the roundabout itself.
So the next question says, we live directly on the corner of Cannon Drive. I'm curious how this project will affect us.
So where am I going?
Cannon Drive, down in section 1, that opposite the big curve.
Yeah. So this actually goes into question 2, or the next question after that from Steve Warren says, will Friendship Road be a dead end? And the answer to that is yes. As you can see there, where the little hand is actually there's a cul-de-sac. So traffic that is, and you can zoom back out just a little bit, Tom or Rebecca, which traffic that is leaving Lone Oak Elementary School, that's leaving Cannon Drive, that's leaving Kimberly Drive, will still be able to get on Friendship, what's going to become Old Friendship Road, the north-south leg there that goes by the school. You can still take that all the way south into Lone Oak. But if you're leaving that area wanting to go to the mall, you're going to have to go on this we're a connector, Tom, across from Cannon, there where the hand is. You'll have to take that connector over to the new Friendship Road that goes through that wooded area behind the cemetery in order to access Friendship Road. So, you know, from a direct standpoint for the people that live on Cannon, it's not going to, you know, impact your homes or property, but it will affect how you access the rest of the highway system. You know, there's going to be a lot less traffic on the north-south leg of Kimberly Drive, but you will have to go a little bit further out of the way to get onto Friendship Road to go out towards the mall area.
So the next question says, will sewers be added with the new roads in section 4?
That potentially, yes. We've had some conversations with Joint Sewer Agency, Paducah Water, and a few of the other utilities that would like to utilize that new route as a corridor to put utilities on to get out, you know, through that area. And so we are working with them, talking to them right now about exactly what that's going to look like, how much room they'll need, how that's going to affect the amount of property we buy, things like that. So I can't really give a definitive answer on that yet, because ultimately, you know, if Joint Sewer Agency, Paducah Water decide they don't want to do it, then that's not something we would force them to do, but it's definitely something that's under discussion right now.
Since this will be a very convenient cut through between US 60 and US 45, what speeds will be accommodated? Residents in Wood Creek Manor sometimes have long-term waits to get out of the neighborhood, and traffic speeds greatly affect the ability to leave the neighborhood.
So when this is complete, Tom, I believe we have a 45-mile-an-hour design speed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we would anticipate, with it being curb and gutter, that it would be signed initially at 45 miles an hour. You know, any potential reductions in speed from that would be looked at based on traffic congestion, travel speed. You know, if there's some areas where we still are seeing accident problems or congestion problems after this is open, then we would consider reducing those from 45 down to 35.
The next question says, I'm still unclear about the plans for the curve at Seneca. I live on Seneca and travel this way several times a day.
So for the people that live on Seneca, Iroquois, Mohawk, the subdivision back there, what you see with the black pavement with the 2 yellow stripes and the green, that depicts where Friendship Road is going to be after this project is completed. So if you're leaving Seneca, nothing is really going to change other than the road that you're getting on is not going to have as sharp of a curve on it. And you're going to be able to see both directions a lot better when you pull out. So for the people that live back in that subdivision, getting onto Friendship Road to go out to 62 or out to the mall area is going to be a lot easier and safer than it is right now.
So the next two questions are related. The first one says, if we have not yet received correspondence regarding the necessary easement to our property, when should we expect to hear from someone? How will we be contacted? And then at a larger level, what are the start and completion dates for each of the sections?
Okay, so the first section that goes from US 45 to US 62, everyone in that section has already been contacted by the highway department. I think the majority of those people have already had an offer made to them. We're negotiating with a lot of those people. There's a few people that we've actually already signed and purchased their property and have gotten their check. Sections 2 and 3, which go from US 62 to Holt Road, those sections, we do not have any funding in place yet for the design and property acquisition for those sections. We hope to get that set up possibly in our next 6-year highway plan. So those are going to be several years out. For the people in section 4 from Olivet Church Road to US 60, that includes the roundabout areas around Menards, we plan on having the funding in place and beginning the property acquisition for those after the first of the year. For all those people, the first contact you'll actually get from us is that we send a certified letter to the address that's on file as the property owner with the PVA office. We send a letter called a notice of proposed acquisition that officially lets you know that the highway department is looking to purchase your property for our highway project. And then after that NOPA letter is received, then that's when and acknowledged, then that's when our appraisers or our real estate agents that work for us would begin contacting people to look at, inspect properties, do appraisals, do valuations, begin negotiations with you. But the first official contact would be through that official notice of proposed acquisition letter, which would come certified mail once we begin the acquisition project process for that phase.
Chris, one of the things that we probably need to let them know also is that with the inclusion of this roundabout, because the roundabout now actually encompasses part of section 3, that some of these parcels back in section 3 will be acquired with section 4 right away, because they will need, if you can see, where the road is being shifted to facilitate this roundabout, then the cabinet will have to purchase this right away to be able to construct the roundabout. So these parcels on 998 are included, as well as some of the parcels that'll go back a little ways back from existing Olivet Church.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tom. Thanks for mentioning that. If you're within the scope right there of the roundabout, whether you're on either side of Olivet Church Road, then we would be starting that acquisition in January of 2022.
So section by section, we could see phase 1, then phase 4, then 2 and 3. Is that the short version? 1, then 4, then 2 and 3, depending on how that funding shakes out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the next question in the chat says, where will the water go from the creek on section 4? Will it be rerouted? It flows down the tree line currently.
It'll continue to go where it goes.
Yeah, when you say the tree line on section 4,
I think she's referencing this.
Edward, can I ask you to unmute and elaborate on that one, if you're willing to? I'm sorry, Denise. I clicked the wrong button.
Could be only eggs with more fresh and delicious taste, plus superior nutrition.
There is a creek that runs off of Stephen Drive down the side of my yard and goes back down that tree line that shoots back down the middle. I don't know how to describe it. There's a puppy little tree line, and then the road is going to curve right beside that tree line. It takes a right and goes, it's right where you are right now, right where that tree line is. It kind of makes a T, like down towards the bottom of the screen. Yes, right there. That's where the creek goes, right to left. Yes, yes. Is there going to be a bridge there? When it rains, it makes a lot of water. The creek comes down this T from my backyard right there. It comes straight down and then takes a right and turns down where you were to kind of cross over that road.
Okay. So as we do our more detailed design in our next step, we will do hydraulic analysis to figure out how much water is going through there and what kind of structure needs to be placed there to carry that water under the road. So we wouldn't be rerouting it. We would be allowing it to follow its natural path that it's going on now, whether that's a bridge or a box culvert or a series of big pipes or something else is something that we'll be determining in our final design for the project.
But it will be accommodated, so it will not
Yes.
like back up into our yard.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that was my worry.
Yeah, if we determine, whatever flow volume we determine is going through there under I think, Tom, for this size, we do what, the 20-year storm and the 100-year storm is a check. Whatever volume of water is flowing, we determine is flowing through there in a 100-year storm, we would put a structure in that would be able to accommodate that without any rise in headwater in the adjoining areas. If any of these areas are on within a FEMA flood map study area, then we take that into account too, and design it so that there's not a change in the elevation shown on that FEMA flood map.
Okay, thank you.
I believe we're caught up on questions in the chat panel. If anybody else wants to use that raise hand button or enter something, we've got a few minutes left. Highway 62 drainage that goes under Friendship Road has caused large amounts of erosion on my and several neighborhood properties. Are there any solutions for short-term issues?
$16.30. So that is, Tom, that's the house. There's the veterinary clinic and then the apartments, and then it's the house behind that. Move your hand down just a little bit. Yeah, it's just west of there. Right there, the house on the south side of the road. You're saying that water, Highway 62 drainage goes under Friendship Road. From the back there. That's probably something that if it's causing if it's causing issues right now, that we probably need to have one of our maintenance engineers come and take a look at and see if there's anything that can be done differently. If it's causing a lot of erosion issues now with where we are in for this section, it's, we're likely 3 or 4 years out from construction. So if we're looking for something short term that's going to try and fix that problem, I'll get with some of our maintenance engineers this week and see if they can get out and take a look at that and see if there's anything that could be done to try to alleviate those problems in the short term, rather than, waiting 3 or 4 years for this project to try to address it. So we'll be back in touch, Mr. Evans, after we get a chance to look at that.
So the next question jumps us down to the dentist's office in section 1. He says, the new road is going to steer traffic behind my office. I was told that traffic coming from Lone Oak Road will not be able to turn left at the turnoff next to my office. How do patients coming from Lone Oak Road access my office?
Tom, is that?
We're talking right here.
Yeah, the dentist office. Yeah, you can see it on there. It says Holland Dental Care.
Yeah.
Traffic coming from Lone Oak is going to have 2 options. One, if they're coming from south of Friendship Road now, like where Hardee's and Darriette are, they'll still be able to turn on Friendship Road, go north past the elementary school, and make a right onto Lakeview and access it that way. If they go past Friendship Road and go past Banks Market, Parker's and everything, they would have to turn here, go down to they could turn on Plantation and come around to Lakeview to get there, or come all the way down to the Signal. And can you do that path again a little more slowly, Tom? Come to the Signal. Oh, come to the new Signal. Come to the new Signal. I don't know if that's Tom or Rebecca, but
That's me.
okay, make a left, and then they'd have to come down, make a left, and kind of, yes.
Or if they're coming from this direction, it's to right in.
So there are several ways to get there that are not too much more out of the way than how they're having to access that property now. We did look at the direct connection there to Lakeview, just to the east of the dentist's office. Is being designed as a right in, right out, allowing left turners in and out of there, cause traffic backup and queues into the Signal that were really not very manageable. So we needed to push that access point where left turners would be allowed further away from the Signal to keep from having kind of a traffic nightmare catastrophe there at the Lakeview Signal.
So we got just a couple more questions as we're coming up on the end of our scheduled hour. This one says, is there a date set for the completion of section 4?
Right now, our goal is to start the property acquisition on section 4 in January of 22. The property acquisition utility relocation will probably take a year, 12 to 18 months. So kind of our target for the beginning start of construction right now would be the summer of 2023. And this is a project that would probably take a year or two to complete. So we're probably looking at completion probably sometime in, a guesstimate would be the summer of 2025. That all is pending us continuing to get funding for the project, being able to do the right-of-way acquisition without too many challenges, and everything kind of moving along smoothly as we hope it's going to do. Completion of section 1 is going to happen a little bit sooner. Right now, we're planning on letting that to construction in July of 2022. That's probably a year to 18 months worth of work. So probably we'll see a completion of that possibly by the end of 2023, possibly sometime in early 2024.
Was the recorded video going to be available somewhere accessible for people who joined late?
I guess, Rebecca, is that something that we can post back to the project website for people?
Absolutely, we can.
Okay.
I got
Yes,
one.
the answer to that will be yes. You'll be able to come back to this project website and watch this entire presentation.
One more question. This says, how has truck traffic been considered? Currently, many trucks aren't aware of the tight turns used and use this as an okay. Currently, many trucks that aren't aware of the tight turns use this as a shortcut from US 45 to US 60. This will obviously increase the likelihood that more trucks will want to use this route to avoid a short connection down I-24. Have traffic prediction models used increased truck percentages in the modeling?
The answer to that is yes, that there is a fairly low truck volume that uses this route right now based on our traffic counts that we've done out in the field. The road is going to be wider than the road is now. The curves are going to be better than the road is now. The roundabouts will be able to accommodate some of that truck traffic. So there will be accommodations made for those trucks. We still don't expect a huge volume of truck traffic. We still do expect a lot of the semis to continue to use 45, the interstate, and US 60 due to the the ease of them using those roads and the size of those roads. But like I said, there are there will be accommodations for that truck traffic within the design.
That is all the questions we've received to date. But as I mentioned earlier, if you think of something else after this, shoot us an email or use that comment box on the website. And we will definitely make sure this video gets up there later this week. Any other closing thoughts or remarks?
No, just for those of you who maybe have some questions or didn't have the technology down to do this with the hand raising and the chatting, on that project website down at the bottom, there's a place where you could submit a comment. Please, if you have any comments or questions, put that on there. If you want me to give you a call or follow up with you individually, please let us know through that comment submission, and we'll be back in touch with you here over the next week or so.
I think that's everybody. We're going to copy the project link one more time into the chat panel. And thanks everybody for joining us.
Yes, thank you, everyone. We appreciate your time and your input on these projects. It's definitely a benefit to us.